Okay, let's dive right into today's explainer. We are going to be walking through this incredibly unique, completely deadpan sci-fi movie concept written by Dave Gervais. It's called The Immortality Salesman. And look, what makes this story so fascinating isn't some massive space battle or CGI laser grids. It's actually how utterly, almost painfully mundane the greatest event in human history turns out to be. We're going to break down exactly how this bizarre first contact plays out, step by step.
So Gervais sets this up perfectly. We aren't starting in a high-tech military bunker or some deep space observatory. No, we open in a totally average park somewhere in North America with a guy named Dave. Just an incredibly handsome middle-aged guy sitting on a bench. And it's raining. Actually, it's the very first rain he's experienced in 3 months because of a severe drought. So Dave doesn't even care that he's getting soaked. He's just breathing in the clean air, feeling totally alive. Nearby, there's a woman throwing a ball for her drenched but super happy border collie. It is literally the definition of a quiet, boring afternoon. And then, out of absolutely nowhere, a UFO appears in the sky right above the park. Naturally, the woman screams in absolute terror. But the true microcomedy of this scene, it's the dog. The very second this happy border collie notices the giant aerial anomaly, all loyalty just evaporates. It immediately takes off for home as fast as its legs can carry it, completely abandoning its owner.
What happens next is just comedic gold. You have this rapid escalation of chaos on one side and total bizarre apathy on the other. Step 1, the UFO shows up. Step 2, the dog just nopes right out of there. Step 3, the woman is hysterically screaming, chases after her dog, gets home, and dials 911. So now the park is completely deserted, except for the UFO and Dave. And Dave isn't scared at all. He's relieved. While the rest of the world is literally about to lose its collective mind, Dave calmly pulls out his phone, attaches it to a little tripod he carries around, and fires up a YouTube live stream.
So Dave, he just watches this vessel slowly touch down right in the middle of the field. He casually strolls over, places his hand on the craft, and instantly this clear dome forms over and around the UFO, trapping him inside. Now, this dome blocks out the rain, sure, but more importantly, it blocks out all sound. Inside, it is endless, perfect silence for Dave. But outside the dome, the police, the fire department, massive crowds of civilians are violently swarming the park because Dave's live stream has instantly gone globally viral.
The contrast here is just spectacular. On one hand, the world is having a complete meltdown. Everyone at the park is trying to film it, but global internet bandwidth has basically crashed because the entire planet is watching Dave's stream. The fire chief eventually finds Dave's abandoned phone and hands it to a cop, which cuts the stream. The military rolls in. It is absolute pandemonium. And on the other hand, Dave is completely ignoring everyone. He's just pacing around his smooth craft in his little silent bubble looking for a door. He touches the ship again. A small platform pops out. He sits down, and a smaller door opens to hand him an apple, which he just starts eating.
Right? He's just sitting there munching on an apple while humanity is experiencing its first undeniable, shocking alien contact. And the comedic timing of what he does next is brilliant. Dave finishes his snack, looks out at this hysterical, panicking crowd pressing themselves against the outside of his glass-like dome, and he throws the apple core right at them. You can practically picture it. The core smacks hard against the inside of the force field, bounces cleanly off the invisible barrier, and comes right back to him. And he just smiles as he catches it midair. I mean, it is the ultimate flex of extraterrestrial indifference.
Then, suddenly, a transparent message appears all over the surface of the dome in multiple languages. It reads, "Do not fear me. Do not fear us. You have nothing to fear." Now, as you can probably guess, this does absolutely nothing to lower the panic. Humans finally have undeniable proof of advanced alien technology, and they are completely stunned. 2 hours later, the crowd is getting really dangerous, so Dave stands up. The bench slides away, a human-sized door opens, he smiles, waves at the cameras with his deep blue eyes, walks into the pitch-black ship, and just takes off. First contact is complete. Now, you might think he just goes back to space, right? Actually, no. For months, Dave repeats this exact, incredibly mundane process all over the world. He lands in a park. He waits for people to show up. He paces. He sits and eats an apple. He flashes the "Do not fear" message, and he leaves. Unsurprisingly, that original YouTube video becomes the most watched video in history, billions of comments. But because his actions are so wildly boring, the world simply cannot agree on his intentions. Global conspiracy theories just explode. Mental institutions are literally overwhelmed with people whose brains cannot comprehend what is happening. Which brings us to the fascinating plot progression in part 2 of Gervais's story. Dave eventually explains to the world that he is, in fact, an alien consciousness residing inside a human body. And to prove it, he submits to every scientific and medical test imaginable, except an autopsy, obviously. So the global medical community runs their tests and universally agrees. Physiologically, Dave is 100% human. But scientifically, they are completely unable to prove or disprove his whole alien consciousness claim. So, how does this worldwide flying apple-eating circus finally culminate? After months of this, Dave returns his UFO to the very first park he landed in. Only now, it's not a quiet park. It is a heavily fenced-in, militarized, scientific black site. Dave lands anyway, totally unfazed. The dome pops up again. But this time, a new message is displayed across the surface in all 7,000+ languages currently used on Earth. And it is hands down the most beautifully anticlimactic greeting ever written. It just says, "Hello, my name is Dave. I'm an alien. I cannot lie, and I cannot die."
I gotta say, the real-world reactions to this Substack post are almost as entertaining as the story itself. One user, named Tiny Despot, wrote, "Your writing belongs on a different type of site, you sick bleep," with a bunch of laughing emojis. It's just this perfectly unhinged reaction to the utter absurdity of a godlike alien whose grand entrance involves a smartphone tripod and a piece of fruit. But right below that laughing reaction, the comments section gives us some serious tonal whiplash. A reader named Janice bypasses the absurdity entirely and goes straight for the deep, existential dread. She writes this earnest letter to the fictional Dave, asking things like, should we have hope? Why are we here on Earth? Does immortality provide a better existence? And most importantly, will we be allowed to keep our pets? Which honestly, considering how fast that border collie abandoned its owner in part 1, is a very valid question.
And that brings us to the final line displayed on the dome, which is the perfect place to wrap up this explainer. Right after introducing himself as an immortal alien who cannot lie, the dome displays one last sentence. "What are your questions for me?" And that is exactly where Gervais leaves us hanging. It's such a fantastic storytelling hook. Let's think about that for a second. If you were standing outside that silent, impenetrable dome, looking at some incredibly handsome guy eating an apple, what would you ask him? What is the one thing you'd want to know from the immortality salesman?